Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I'm standing on a yoga mat. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. Find a place in your house that is carpeted. Maybe you've got a rug that can serve as your yoga mat for today. I also have 2 yoga blocks, but you can substitute 2 thick books instead. And I have a folded blanket, which is literally the throw blanket from my couch, so you could do the same. Or maybe you have a beach towel or a bath towel that will serve as a nice thing to fold up and either pad or elevate, depending on how we use it as we go. Now, we will start today in a child's pose. So child's pose is sometimes called a resting pose, but not for all of us. And it doesn't look the same for all of us, nor should it. You might use this as your first opportunity to spread out your blanket underneath your knees. You also might decide that you don't really feel so great about sinking your hips towards your heels because the knee flexion doesn't feel great. So you could curl your toes under, you could reach your arms forward, even rest your forehead on one of these blocks and have a pretty wide open child's pose, or if it feels okay in your body, then you can sink your hips towards your heels a bit. Take your arms in front of you for a little bit more support. Maybe rest your forehead on a block. And let's turn the arrows of attention inward as we snuggle here in our child's pose. Start to become aware of your breath. If possible, let it come in and out through your nose. If that's not possible, just breathe any way that you can, but with awareness. Let's take 3 moments to stop so that we can start. Then slither out onto your belly, and if there are props that you were using for your child's pose, just brush them off to the side of your mat. On our bellies, we'll fashion a sphinx, and I'd like for you to bring your forearms parallel to the long edges of your mat. We'll refine a few things right out of the gate. We're not collapsed into our shoulders here in Sphinx. There's a little bit of a karate chop into the ground and a traction of our elbows towards us that feels like we're lifting our heart through the gateway of our arms. Our legs are not forgotten. Press into the tops of your feet. Feel your kneecaps lift off of your mat. Let there be a traction and an integrity to your arms. So a little bit of energy in our arms. We're going to focus a little bit on our arms in this practice. So I want us to really be aware of how we're using them and how we're using them in relation to our shoulders. Now lower down enough that you can curl your toes under and maybe even shimmy your elbows an inch towards you. Push into the ground until you round up in between your shoulder blades. That's called protraction of your shoulder blades, whereas when we were in Sphinx, it was retraction. There's not going to be a quiz, but I want you to know that your shoulder blades do that. Now lift your belly away from the ground and lift your hips away from the ground, and let's just leave our knees where they are, but let's become, again, very aware of how we're using our arms, especially because it's become more weight-bearing, right? And in a moment, some of us will even take our knees off our mat, which is really going to make things weight-bearing. We're not struggling in our neck, and we're not collapsed in our shoulders. So we still have that pushing the ground away very actively. Now we'll lower down onto our belly, uncurl our toes, and take an interlace of our hands behind our back. It feels like a kind of nice release from that relatively long forearm plank. So drag your knuckles behind you, but as you do that, we're not throwing our chin forward. Let that stay neutral. Imagine there's a lemon underneath your chin and you don't want to lose it and you don't want to juice it. Press into the tops of your feet till your kneecaps come off your mat, and let's get a very long, strong understanding of what a back bend might feel like and a release of our arms that are actually in a different position in regards to our shoulders right now. More the position of when we do a cobra or an up dog, wouldn't you say? Now we'll release it down. Bring your forearms onto your mat. Let them be parallel to the ground. Let's do this very slowly. Curl your toes under. Get that oomph into your arms. So let's be very arm conscious. Now, belly lifts, hips lift, thighs lift. Feel free to leave your knees down. Be very aware of what we're building in our arms. Maybe lift your knees off your mat. That's a lot of weight in our arms. So we want to have intelligent architecture as we fashion these. Now bring your knees down, your thighs down. Let's uncurl our toes into Sphinx. Just know that we've got one more of those plank on our forearms on the docket. If you don't want to do it, just stay put here. If you do, curl your toes under, oomph into your arms, round up in between your shoulder blades, lift your belly, your hips, your thighs, possibly even your knees off your mat. Let it cook just 3 moments here. And then knees down, thighs down, hips down. That was a lot, right? Lower down and bring your hands next to your ribs. So let's refine our cobra a little bit. We're not winging our elbows out and we're not collapsed in our shoulders. What we're doing is finding Sphinx and drawing our heart through the gateway of our arms. We're activating our legs by pushing into the tops of our feet. And we are not trying to do it with our chin. We're letting this be right in our shoulder girdle where we want it to be. Like really beautiful posture. And our arms are a part of it. Now lower down, here comes some real arm strength. Curl your toes under, press into your hands, push the ground away to come to all fours. Now once we're on all fours, let's get the alignment of our arms here too. If you prefer, you can have your folded blanket underneath your knees. But to be clear, we're not collapsed into our shoulders. Push the ground away so it feels like there's no concave between your shoulder blades. And there's actually muscles called the serratus anterior core muscles that are helping our arms to stabilize here. Now step your right foot back like you're flirting with a plank, and then step your left foot back, and you're no longer flirting, you are in your plank. And then left knee down and right knee down. Let's just kneel for a second and press the backs of our hands together and let our wrists release a sec. Once again, we have our shoulders over our wrists. We're pushing the ground away. We're super conscientious of how we are working in our arms. And we'll step our left foot back first this time. And then we'll step our right foot back. Let's take inventory that we're not collapsed and that we're not struggling in our neck. And then just bring both knees down and shift a little bit forward. Think about the position we were in when we did those planks on our forearms. And let's go through that position as we lower to our belly. So elbows brush your ribs, they don't wing out to the side. Uncurl your toes. Let's find that cobra. So traction and heart through the gateway of our arms. Chin stays parallel to the ground. Lower down, curl your toes under, firm through your belly. Come to all fours. And then from all fours, imagine a hook in your tailbone. Continue to push the ground away, and we will come into down dog. Our first down dog, let's be wide with our feet, even as wide as our mat. Bend your knees, and as you push the ground away, prioritize making your spine long. We're still oomping into our arms. This is still a very arm and shoulder girdle conscientious moment. So no elbows bending out to the side and collapsing. Imagine your inner upper arms spinning out in front of you. I always keep a bend in my knees, and I tend to stay on my tiptoes because what we don't want is to round our spine and try to lower our heels. So just get a little sass with your butt to the sky, and let's walk our feet to our hands. Our feet are hip distance. Bring your hands to your ankles, your shins, or your thighs as you inhale and uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips and fold. Then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Let's stand in our mountain and pause. Sun salutation A. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs or your shins or your ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up your thighs as you uplift your heart as if doing one of those belly back bends. And then hands flat. So bend your knees as deeply as you need to make your way to down dog. Let's be very aware of our arms. Push the ground away, spin the inner upper arms in front of you. Sass your hips to the sky. Keep pushing the ground away as you come into plank position. Keep pushing the ground away as you gently lower your knees down. Belly is firm as we lower all the way onto our belly. Uncurl your toes and traction, heart through the gateway of your arms, working our arms in our cobra. Lower down, curl your toes under, come through all fours. And then let the hook in your tailbone take you to down dog. Keep oomping into your arms. Walk your feet forward to your hands. Let them be hip distance, and then inhale, hands to ankles, shins or thighs, uplifting our heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips, folding in. Inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand in our mountain. Here as well, our arms are a part of our design. Inner upper arms spin away from each other. It helps us to find our arms in our shoulder sockets, supporting good posture. Let's take that sun salutation again. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs, your shins, or your ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up, uplift your heart. And then exhale, bend your knees deeply. Palms are completely flat. We oomph into our arms in our down dog with the hook in our tailbone. And then we keep pushing the ground away, arms strong, plank position, and then knees to our mat. Elbows, brush our our ribs as we lower down. And then uncurl your toes and gently into cobra. Lower down, curl your toes under. Use your arm strength to come to all fours. Continue to use your arm strength and the hook in your tailbone to find a down dog. Let's take a moment here on our arms to push so much that we feel new space in our spine. And then walk your feet to your hands, hip distance. Inhale, hands to ankles, shins or thighs, uplifting our hearts. Exhale, hinge at your hips and fold in, sliding your hands down maybe, and then inhale, rise, reach. Thumbs to the sky, a V. We'll pause in our mountain, palms facing out. Rearranging to face the long edge of our mat, let's also rearrange our props. So our blocks will go off what will become the back long edge of our mat, and they are turned tall. We'll then face the opposite long edge of our mat. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Step your feet about ankle under wrist space, so that's the beginning of it. Then both heels in and toes out. Now what we don't want is our knees to be too far out in front of our ankles, so I actually need a little wider stance. You might need that too. Let's take our arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky first, and refine from the waist down, and then we'll straighten our legs and figure out our arms. Right arm out to the side, thumb to the sky. Then pat yourself on the back with your right hand, and take your left arm out to the side, thumb faces down. Take the back of your left hand to the small of your back. That's plenty. You might work those two towards each other. We want to remember that we're not compensating, we're not dumping into our low back, that there is an intelligence to our shoulders, even though we're not weight bearing right now. And then bend your knees, so we come into what's called horse stance with our arms in two different positions for 2 moments. Then straighten your legs, undo your arms, and float them along your sides. What we're doing with our arms is actually some brain food too, because to do different things on the two sides of our body, very beneficial. So left arm out to the side, thumb to the sky. Let's feed our brains on the second side. Bend your left elbow, pat yourself on the back. Right arm out to the side, thumb faces down. You can place the back of your right hand to the small of your back or walk those two towards each other. And then let's bend our knees into our horse stance with our arms doing different things on different sides. 3 moments here. Straighten your legs, widen your arms out to the side. Turn your toes to face forward, heel toe, hip distance. Let's move our props again It's what happens when you're live. Sometimes we use them, sometimes that's actually not what happens. So we will reposition our props on the two sides of our mat facing the short edge and return to our mountain, palms face out. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up as you uplift your heart and then bend your knees deeply and put your palms flat on the ground. Step it into downward facing dog. Now this is a different move than maybe you've done with me before. We're going to shift towards plank. Remember, we're very conscientious of what we're doing with our arms. Then come to the outside of your right foot, inside of your left foot, and take your left arm up to the sky. Bring that left hand back to the ground and head back to down dog. So spin on your back toes, lift your hips up, prioritize that long spine. Then move towards plank, shoulders over wrists, come to the outside of your left foot, inside of your right foot, and then venture your right arm, thumb to the sky, up to the sky. Return your right hand, spin on your toes, go to downward facing dog, let your hips lift up and back. Walk your feet forward to the front edge of your mat. Let's come off of our arms for a moment, hands to shins, ankles, or thighs as you inhale and uplift your heart. Exhale, fold in. Then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and we'll stand in our mountain. That's going to be the launch for a little bit of a flow we'll do. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs, your shins or your ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up as you uplift your heart. Bend your knees, palms flat, step to down dog. From down dog, shift towards plank. Push the ground away, outside of right foot, inside of left foot. Left arm up to the sky. Now return your left hand down, spin on your toes, go to down dog. And lift your right leg behind you in your down dog. Step your right foot forward. You can help it along if that's a helpful thing. Turn your left foot, your back foot flat. Take your right forearm across your right thigh and your left hand onto your hip. And in a way, you're doing that side plank that we just did, if you think about it. But now our side plank is standing on a couple of feet. Yeah? Left thumb to the sky, arm to the sky. What we don't want is a crumble into our right shoulder. So again, even though we're not doing side plank, we've learned from our side plank. And it's almost like we're doing our side plank on our thigh. Now let's come up into a warrior two, both thumbs to the sky. You've got a pretty good view of my back body. Remember what we did facing the long edge of our mat? Let's take our right arm to the sky and then pat ourselves on the back with that right arm. Left thumb faces down, either back of your hand to the small of your back, or they can move towards each other. If this is too long with a bend in your knee, you can straighten that front leg and rebend it, but let's take 3 moments together here. Then free your arms out to the side. Take your hands to your mat, spin on your back toes, step into down dog. Palms are flat. We're pushing the ground away actively. Come towards a plank, keep the energy in your arms, come to the outside of your left foot, inside of your right foot, and now take your right arm, thumb to the sky, up to the sky. Come back to down dog, spin on your back toes, lift your hips up. Now our left leg will lift behind us. We'll step it forward, maybe help it along. Right foot, back foot flat, left forearm across our thigh. First, just right hand on our hip. And let's make certain that we're not in an old habit of collapsing into our left shoulder. I know, me too. Right arm to the sky, thumb to the sky. Remember, if this is too long with a bent knee as we go, you can always straighten and rebend. Take care of yourself as we go. Now we'll come upright into our warrior two, thumbs to the sky. And then our left arm goes up, we pat ourselves on the back. Right thumb faces down, either back of your right hand to the small of your back, or they might move towards each other. And we'll pause here. 3 more moments. Free your arms out. And then carefully spin on your back toes. Place your hands down on your mat. Step to downward facing dog. Remember, we have a priority of oomping into our arms and lifting our sit bones to the sky. Let's wash this clean with a sun salutation. Come to plank. Keep pushing the ground away. Your knees come down, lower to your belly. Come into your cobra. And then recurl your toes and come through all fours. Once you're on all fours, let's turn this into a seated position with our legs out in front of us. And then I'm just going to turn a little bit to the side so that you can see what I'm doing. You will take your hands behind you with your fingers facing away from you. And although I'm off my mat, you can stay on your mat to do this. You'll scoot your hips away from your hands and your hands away from your hips just till you find a place where it's working. And you might feel it on your elbows. It's going to give you a little bit of evidence as to how it is that you use your arms a lot. Find a place that's interesting, but not unbearable. If you want more, all you do is scoot your fingers forward or scoot your hips forward a little bit. We're not chasing anything too intense. We want to find a place where, here we are in shoulder extension, it's called. And let's meditate. Let's take a full minute of meditation here. That's our full minute. Now getting out of this mess, right? Out of this contraption. Firm your belly. Carefully walk your hands in. Carefully move your hips towards you. That's sometimes when I realize that I've done something. Take your two blocks. So this was extension at the shoulder. This is what's called flexion. And if you take your two blocks and put your elbows on your blocks, and then imagine that you're doing the sassiest child's pose you've ever done. You'll lift your butt up to the sky. Your forehead might go on the ground or on your folded blanket between your two blocks, and then a prayer behind your back. And we'll pause here a few moments. Now let's gently bring ourselves out of this contraption and come to a seated position. So I often, when it's a seated cross-legged position, which is what we're going to climb into, I often sit upon my folded blanket. So you might join me in that. Or you could sit on your block or even on a cushion from your couch. Once we're seated, let's cross our right shin in front of our left shin. And because we're going to use this as a little bit of a hip opener, not so much across at the ankles as it is walk your feet a little closer to each other, and you'll feel it in your glutes, which is actually what we want. Let's first just settle into the lower body part, sort of like when we did our horse stance, our plie. And speaking of what we did in our horse stance, we'll add those arms to our seated cross-legged hip opening. So right arm out to the side, thumb to the sky. Pat yourself on the back. Left arm out to the side, thumb faces down. Could be back of your left hand to the small of your back. Maybe those two walk towards each other a little bit. Let's get very quiet and still. working into our arms, into our hips, and with our breath and focus. A silent 30-second swath right here. Gently release. Let's switch sides with that. So left arm to the sky, thumb to the sky. Pat yourself on the back. Right arm out to the side, thumb faces down. Back of your right hand to the small of your back. They might move towards each other. You find a place where it's interesting, but possible to meditate. And we take our swath of silence on this side together. And then let's let this side go. Uncross and recross your legs. It might feel nice to give a little waggle. You can almost reach your arms back like that little shoulder stretch we did. And then left shin in front. Remember, a little tighter cross just so we get a little glute stretch. Now take your right arm across your body and make a hinge out of your left elbow, and then just pull, not pull, but encourage that arm across your body. Lots with our arms today, yeah? We'll switch sides with that. So left arm across your body, make a hook with your right elbow, and then you might feel some of those muscles that we worked, getting a stretch. A couple of options today. Either stay here, seated, in a meditation to end our practice together, or if you're really wanting to do a Shavasana final meditation, feel free to lie down, sprawl out across the floor. But let's find a place where we can be silent together for 2 minutes and rest and digest. Starting now. If you're in a Shavasana final meditation, maybe reach your arms and legs away from each other. Bring your knees into your chest, roll to either side, and then come and join us in this seated, cross-legged position or any other seat that's comfortable for you. You are well armed, ready to take all this incredible strength and grace of yours out into the world. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.